that would like to attend and participate and also see on the screen, then they can come to the back side of the men's prayer hall, inshallah, and they can attend participate in the halaqah there, inshallah. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina astafa ma ba'd. So as we all heard the announcement that the halaqah is titled Precision, 40 Hadith of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I just wanted to explain this before we actually get into the topic of the halaqah and discuss the hadith as well. Number one is that precision, why did we use the word precision? Right? Because if we look at the ahadith of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the statements of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are very concise, they're precise in the words that he would use, but the meaning and the lessons that we draw from it, it's endless, right? Which is why he is known as Jawami'ul Hikam, right? So this is something unique about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where on one hadith, right? This hadith, some ahadith are two words, ad-dinun nasiha. But in that, the scholars of hadith and our scholars of the past and even till today, they've written full books on it, right? Full books on those two words of ad-dinun nasiha. And like this, the ahadith that we chose today and to share with everyone are short ahadith. And the reason why we chose short ahadith is because we want the members of the halaqah, right, the community members, to try to make an attempt to memorize them as well, if possible. So there is reward in memorizing ahadith. Imam Nawawi, which is why we see this concept of al-arba'un from the previous scholars, and even again till today, where scholars would choose 40 hadith on a specific topic, or just choose 40 very important ahadith that they thought were very important. Imam Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi has mentioned it, has compiled 40 ahadith, right? And like this, many other scholars have done this, right? So there is something unique, and it all is based off of one hadith of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he mentions virtue of memorizing 40 ahadith, right? There are various ahadith that mention this virtue. But the thing is that the virtue or the ahadith, each single hadith is da'if, is weak. But even though the hadith are weak, because there's so many different narrations mentioned and so many different riwayat that are mentioned, the scholars have said that it is okay to take virtue from it, right? To take it for virtue is okay. When Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi actually explains this in his muqaddamah of Arba'un, right? In his muqaddamah, he explained this in depth. So we won't say that there's any specific virtue attached to this, but just virtue in general of reading and memorizing 40 ahadith. It's thabit, it's proven from Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and if possible, we should make an attempt, right, to memorize these ahadith. And like I said, these ahadith are very short, right? So it shouldn't be that difficult for us to do it, inshallah, right? So this is why we gave that title of precision, and this is why we chose 40 hadith. Now, the hadith that we chose for this halaqah range from a variety of topics, right? They'll cover various topics, but we try to choose topics that are relevant and that are important for us as Muslims living here in our society and our community. In the beginning of each halaqah, or not each halaqah, from time to time, what I also wanted to do is I wanted to share a little bit of the science of hadith, right? So we won't go into the depths of the science of hadith because that's not the purpose of this halaqah, right? And understanding the science and the principles of hadith is very important. And the reason is because if you look in Islam, right, our two main legislative sources in Islam is the Quran and the Sunnah. These are our primary sources. And at the end of the day, what is the history of the tadween, or the compilation of the Quran? The history of the compilation of the hadith. How do we know that the Quran is authentic? How do we know that the hadith are authentic? What steps were taken by the scholars of the past to ensure the authenticity of the Quran and to ensure the authenticity of hadith? Right? It's very important for us to understand this as believers, right? As Muslims, especially living in this society where religion in general is questioned continuously, is attacked, right? Religion is attacked generally within our society, and then Islam is also attacked, right? And if we aren't going to fortify our knowledge, if we're not going to gain depth in our knowledge, right, and gain strength in our knowledge, and start understanding why the things are the way they are, then what happens is that at the first instance of difficulty or adversity, a person will slip, a person will let go. It's difficult for them to stay steadfast, right? It's difficult for them to stay steadfast because they don't have their knowledge is superficial, right? When our knowledge is superficial, then the first time of objection, the first instance of objection or adversity, then a lot of the times we'll leave it, right? But on the other hand, if we are strong in our knowledge, right, we have depth in our knowledge, then what will happen is that whatever adversity or objection is made in front of us, we will know the answer to it, and we will have that yaqeen, that 100%, and that conviction that this is 100% true. There is no doubt in it. There can never be any doubt in it, right? And this is very important for us as believers, as Muslims living in our society and living in this era that we live in right now, right? So when it comes to hadith, right? Hadith, there are different aspects. So first of all, what is a hadith, right? What is a hadith? And I gave the definition of a hadith here. A lot of the things that I'm taking from this usul al-hadith, or when it comes to the principles of hadith, is taken from Sharh al-Nukhba by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahmatullah alayh, one of the earliest books of usul al-hadith, right? So I took a lot of it from there, right? What is hadith, right? Number one, what does a hadith mean? So hadith means three things. Number one, it is the statement, action, or taqreer of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And I didn't translate taqreer on purpose because there's no one word for it, right? So it's a statement of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It's an action of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or a taqreer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, what is taqreer? Taqreer is basically it's silent approval. That's what it is. Where Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was aware of something being done, he knew, he understood, and he was fully aware that a specific action was being done, and he did not object to it, right? The fact that he was aware and that he did not object is his approval. Right, so this is taqreer is basically silent approval of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there are examples of this, and many of the examples are when it comes to eating specific foods, because Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't eat every type of food out there, right? The Sahaba radiallahu anhum ate many other types of food than the Prophet did. The Prophet would sit with them, he would see them eat, but he wouldn't object to it. So that is the fact that you would not object is the taqreer. Right, and if that is established, then this will also be considered as a hadith. Now, along with this, a hadith can also be the statement of action, or a taqreer of a sahabi, of a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or one of the tabi'un, the successors. Right, it can be one of either three. The reason why I didn't mention it here is because Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahmatullah alayhi indicates that there's a slight difference, right? And this will go into the intricacies of the terminology of hadith. He says that when it comes to the statements of the companions and the statements of the tabi'un, he says that should be called athar, right? Not hadith, right? But these are all synonymous terms. And if you look at many of the definitions of what a hadith is, the scholars have included the statements of the Sahaba and the statements of the Tabi'un as well, right? So now when it comes to hadith will have different aspects to it. Every hadith has various aspects to it. Number one is the matan of the hadith, matanul hadith, right? And that is the text, the actual text, that which is being said, that which is being mentioned, right? Another will be the sanad, the chain of narrators right? Going back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And then another aspect to it is when it comes to this chain, this sanad, we look at two things. Two things are looked at to determine whether hadith, to determine the authenticity of a hadith. One is you look at the quality of the narrators, and the second is you look at the quantity of the narrators. And then based on the number of narrators and then their qualities as well. And what I mean by quality is that whether the scholars of the past have mentioned anything in regards to them. That, for example, to say this person is thiqa, this person is he's very strong in his knowledge. He had a very good memory, right? And he learned a lot of hadith. They mention a lot of good things about him. Then we'll say this person is a very strong narrator, a thiqa narrator. And then we have other narrators that have also narrated hadith, but the scholars of hadith, they have said that he had a weak memory, right? And because he has a weak memory, we'll say that there might be something wrong in this hadith. It's not that we just throw out the hadith to the side, right? We'll say that there's some deficiency within this hadith, right? So this is what it means by quality of narrators. The other aspect is quantity. How many people are narrating it, right? So now if you look at the ahadith, basically you'll have three generations, right? You have the generation of the Sahaba, the generation of the Tabi'un, and the generation of the Tabi'un. After that is when all of the compilation of the hadith began, right? And everything started to come into book form. This is when Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi began to compile his hadith, right? And then even before that was Muwatta Imam Malik, and then Imam Muslim, etc., etc. Right? So you have these 2 or 3 generations. Every hadith will have either 2 or 3, sometimes 4, but majority are 2 or 3, right? You'll have this sanad. Now, when you're looking at the number of narrators of the hadith, you'll classify and you'll give in different terms, right? And the reason, again, why I'm saying this is because we always hear these terms, but seldom do we understand what these terms mean, right? So number one, the first term is mutawatir. Mutawatir is that hadith that you have the number of reporters in every generation is so many that it is impossible for all of them to conspire in a lie, or for all of them to coincidentally tell the same lie, right? So what is this hadith, right? What does this mean? Is that you have something that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, right? And then you have, for example, 50 or 60 Sahaba radiallahu anhum. You have a large number who all lived in different lands, right? They all went to different places, right? And then all of them are saying that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the exact same thing, right? So then when the scholars of hadith look at this, they're like, it's impossible that all of these 60, 70, or 100, or however many, whatever number it is, right? Some scholars say that there has to be 70, other scholars say there have to be 100 narrators, right? But whatever number it is, right? It's impossible that all of them they all conspired, they got together and they said, let's all tell this lie about that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this. And it's also impossible. I have to turn off my lock, inshallah. Next time I'll do it. It's also impossible that they all coincidentally tell the exact same lie, right? That's just logically impossible, right? And for example, we have 60 people here sitting in this halaqah, right? If 60 of you go out and say that I said the exact same thing, and you guys don't have any difference, right, in the words or in the general meaning of what I'm saying, then we're going to say that I had to have said that. It's impossible that I didn't say it, because you have so many people, right, claiming that I made that statement. So this is what it means. And then mutawatir is that in every generation you have that increase, that a large number of narrators. And then the second type of hadith is called ahad, right? Ahad is basically any hadith that does not reach the level of mutawatir, right? When you speak about the number of narrators, the number of reporters, right? And then ahad has 3 types, right? So the first is mashhur. In every generation, there is more than 2 narrators, right? In every generation, there are more than 2. So above 2 narrators. Aziz is that in every generation, there are at least two people narrating it, right? And then gharib is in any one of the sorry, I'm saying this incorrectly. Mashhur is where if any one of the generations has only two narrators. So if you had, for example, 30 in the first generation, and then the second generation only have two narrators, and then the third generation you have 30 again, then this hadith will not be one of mutawatir, it will be one of mashhur, right? And then aziz is that if you have any one of the generations, you only have two people, sorry, that would be classified as aziz, right? A mashhur is where if it's three or more, right? Three or more. Aziz is two narrators, and gharib is you have one narrator. So in any one of these generations, you have one person narrating, then that hadith will be classified as gharib, right? And I'm just saying this just for us to understand a little bit more about the science of hadith. And then throughout this halaqah, inshallah, I'll be mentioning a few tidbits. So the next thing that I'm going to discuss is when it comes to the quality of narrators, right? The different classifications of that. Inshallah, we'll begin the actual ahadith now. Before I move on, are there any questions in regards to this? I know I did it very fast and it was very quick, but if there are any questions in regards to that topic, inshallah, I'll take it. If you don't have questions now, inshallah, you can save the questions and I can take them later as well, inshallah. If anyone has a question during the halaqah, inshallah, I think it'll be okay. I'll give chances to people during the halaqah to ask questions, inshallah. So the first hadith is a very famous hadith. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لامرئ ما نواه فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته إلى دنيا يصيبها أو امرأة يتزوجها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. Now this is a lengthy hadith, but the most important aspect of this hadith is the first portion. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. So when it comes to memorizing, we can just memorize that one portion, inshallah. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Right? What does that mean? The Prophet ﷺ has said, actions are only according to their intentions. Right? So actions are judged according to their intentions. This hadith is almost every single, right, or many muhaddithun have mentioned this hadith as their first hadith when they're compiling a hadith. Right? A lot of them will mention this hadith first, right? And Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayhi has also mentioned this. Many other scholars have mentioned that this hadith is one of the most important ahadith, or one of the most important. It teaches us one of the most important lessons in Islam, right? Which is why there's so much importance given to this statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now the question is that why? Why is this hadith so important? Why is it that everyone mentions this again and again and again, right? Why do we always reminded of this hadith, right? So one answer to that, and this is something that never really hit, it never really sat, and I never really understood it, right, properly, of why it's so important until I read a book, and this book was a book that basically was explaining what vision a believer should have, right? And they were explaining that how important it is for a believer to have a vision in life. How a believer is one that does not just go through life for the sake of going through life, right? You go through your day for the sake of going through your day, right? Where everything has no purpose. I'm just doing it because I have to do it, because it's a part of my life. A believer is never like this. A believer is a person who every single thing that he does or she does, every single thing that he or she says, there's purpose, there's intent behind it, right? Because we always mention this. The reason is because we all understand that my time here is extremely short. And if I don't utilize this time that I have now, then I will pay the price, or I will reap the rewards in the life hereafter, right? This time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, He takes an oath by time, wal asr, right? He takes an oath by time, right? And then He says, innal insana lafi khusr. He says, verily, all of mankind is in loss. without making any exceptions. He says all of mankind is in loss. And then after that, he makes an exception. Right? So the scholars explain is, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that all of mankind is in loss? The reason is because time is such a commodity that we're always losing it. Right? It's something that we are going to lose, and we're in a continuous state of loss. And there's no getting it back. Right? Which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken an oath by time. Now, when we understand that we're here in this world for a very short span of time, and I have to take advantage of every single thing that I'm going to be doing here, right? You know how like when we go to the Haramain, right, or the month of Ramadan comes, then what do we always hear, and what do the things that we do, right? We're like, we want to take advantage of every single moment. So then you plan everything out, right? You won't just go to the Medina or Mecca and you just aimlessly walk around and just do whatever you feel like doing. No, there's an intent. There's something that's driving you. There's motivation, right? Because you understand that this place is extremely valuable. The place that I'm in is one of the most holiest places on earth. And I don't know when I will be able to get a chance to come back here. So because you understand that your time is limited there, you value every single second of it. You want to take advantage of every single second, right? You don't want to waste any time over there. And this is that enthusiasm that everyone goes with, right? Why? Because they've understood the value of that place, right? Those people who have understood the value of the time of Ramadan, they will not let a single second of Ramadan go past or go by without taking some advantage from it, right? Because they've understood the value of the time of that. Now, similarly, as a believer, we are here in this world. Understand that the time that we have is extremely valuable. This time is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never give back to us. Now, when we understand the value of the time that we have in this world, then what is our job? The next step will be, how do I take the most amount of advantage? And the way that we'll be able to extract the most amount of advantage is based on this hadith. That first statement, that إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are judged according to their intention, right? And the way we'll do that is because we'll start, and I mentioned this in the halaqah on Friday, or the program that me and Imam Fuad did on Friday. I'd mentioned it then, that when we have enough knowledge to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me at every single moment of my day, and what I can do to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every single action of my day, then this is how we're going to extract benefit from it. Right? Now, for example, you're buying groceries, right? You're going to the groceries. You're going to the grocery store to buy groceries, right? To buy the needs, to fulfill the needs of your family, right? Whatever basic needs you have. Now, the thing is many of us will go there, fulfill the duty, and come back. But because we never had an intention, all that action was an action of us taking out time, going in our car, going to the grocery store, spending money, and coming back. That's what it was, right? But now if we had understood and we thought for a second of, how can I extract benefit from this time or this action that I'm going to be doing anyways, right? What we would think is that I'm going to the grocery store, but actions are based upon intention. So my intention of going to the grocery store is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by fulfilling His commandment, by fulfilling the responsibility that He's placed on my shoulders of taking care of my family. Because I'm also going to keep this hadith in front of me, where Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam encourages us to give sadaqah, and he says, "Wabda biman ta'ul," give starting with your family. And then he's also said that spend on your family. So is this not spending on your family? Is this not fulfilling that responsibility that we have as men or as women for our family? And has that responsibility has been placed upon us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? Yes, the answer is yes. So now we can, every single second that we're in this action of buying groceries, we're receiving reward for it. Now, if we do that before every single action, so I was mentioning in the beginning that you have vision, right? Your vision is, a believer's vision is what? Is to earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Essentially, that's what it is. Now, how are we going to earn the pleasure of Allah? It is by before we start any action, before we do anything, before we say anything, we remember this hadith. Actions are based upon intentions. Why am I doing this? What benefit is this going to, what benefit will I accrue in the life hereafter by doing this action? Is there any benefit or is there not? Right? And that's something that we'll have to determine, right? And it's a question that we'll have to answer. And then what will in turn happen is that every action is going to be done with a purpose. I'm going to wake up in the beginning of the day, right? Look at the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. When he would wake up, he would say, Allahumma inni as'aluka khayra hadha al-yawm, fathahu wa nasrahu wa nurahu wa barakatahu wa huda. He wakes up and he's asking, oh Allah, make this day a blessed day for me. Make this day a day filled with nur. Make this day a day filled with guidance. Yani, allow me to take benefit from this day, right? Now, if we wake up every single day with that type of attitude, that, you know what, Allah has given me a chance today to worship Him one more time, to prostrate, to put my forehead before Him one more time, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving me an opportunity to help someone else in this, right, today, right? Now, another example of how we can extract benefit is we're going to work, right? We're going to work. Now, we're all going to go to work because we all need to survive. But what intention are we going to work? Are we going to work with the intention that I just need to become wealthy and I need the paycheck at the end of the month? If that's what it is, and that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with it. But if we have a more vast intention, we have a deeper intention, and that intention could be of, I'm going to work, maybe I'll give da'wah at work. Maybe not, I'm not mean that we all go and start calling everyone to Islam with our words, but with our actions. Is that not a form of da'wah? Right? I'm going, and then at every opportunity that I can get to explain to people my deen of why I do the things that I do, is that not a form of da'wah? Right? Of course it is. Being honest at work, being kind at work, right? Speaking in a kind manner at work, these are all forms of da'wah. Right? So it could be, I'm going with the intention of da'wah. I'm going to earn money so that I can help I can help those that are in need. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give me money, and with this money I'm going to do things. Right? The Sahaba radiallahu anhum were unique. Right? The poor Sahaba, they once came to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and then they complained to him. They said that these rich people have gone much ahead of us. Right? Allah has given them wealth. Right? And so number one is they're coming and they're complaining that they don't have wealth. And they're complaining that other companions have a lot of wealth. But why are they complaining? They're not complaining because they don't have food. They didn't come and say that we don't have enough food, our clothes aren't as nice, our houses aren't as nice, or our cars or our conveyances aren't as nice. They didn't say that. The reason why they were complaining was because they're like, these people, Allah has given wealth and they're spending that wealth for the sake of Allah. We don't have that opportunity. So they literally wanted to become wealthy so that they can give to the sake of Allah, so that they can please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Like every single moment, every single action, every single second was motivated by pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So this is that type of attitude that we need to bring within us. And this is why this hadith is mentioned. And I'll explain the rest of the hadith. And then he says, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ. And a person receives only what he has intended. Right? So if you make an intention, a specific intention, Allah will reward you according to your intention. Right? Therefore, whoever's emigration, their hijrah, is for Allah and His Messenger, his emigration is truly for Allah and His Messenger. His hijrah is truly for Allah and His Messenger. And whoever hijrah is for any worldly gain, or a woman he is to wed, yani to get married, then his hijrah is for whatever he made hijrah for. Right? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this hadith was actually mentioned after the act of hijrah, when the Sahaba radiallahu anhum migrated from Makkah to Medina. And then it's mentioned that one of the Sahaba actually got married to a woman in Medina. And then after that, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or a person came and he got married to a woman in Medina. And this is why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives that specific example. Right? But the point that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the lesson that we're taking is that before we do anything, let's try to remember this hadith. And we don't memorize the whole thing. It's going to be too long and too hard. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are judged or based according to their intentions. Right? A very short hadith, but this hadith has so much meaning. And this is a hadith that if we live by, right, we'll be able to extract so much benefit from. Right? And it's all, it all comes down to a matter of, what do we value? What is my ultimate goal in life? Right? Understand that Allah has created us with a great purpose. Right? Allah says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا. That you think I have created you in null, in vain, with no purpose? No. We're all here for a purpose. Understand what that purpose is. And every second that we have, let's aim and let's make a goal to try to fulfill that purpose. Right? Let's call it. We said half an hour. Inshallah, I'll do one more hadith and then that's it. And I'll just explain. I'll just go very quickly into the second hadith. The second hadith is ad-deenun nasiha. Ad-deenun nasihatu. The religion, yani Islam, is to act with sincerity. Right? Another definition or another explanation of nasiha is deen is well-wishing. Right? Is to well-wish, is to wish well for other people. Right? This is basically what this hadith is that it's deen is sincerity, or deen, Islam, is to be a well-wisher for yourself and for everyone else around you. Right? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying this is what Islam is. Right? This is what it is that we should at all times want good for other people, want good for ourselves, and want good for other people. But the question is what is good in the eyes of Allah? Right? Not what's good in our society, not what our society deems good, but what the good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has determined, those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has determined as good. And what is the best thing, right, is iman. There's nothing greater than iman. Right? So when we go around, we're meeting, we're mixing, and we're communicating at all times with people of other faiths, then the question is that has that thing ever come inside of me, or that thought, has that thought ever hit me, or that concern that why isn't this person a believer? Right? Has that thought ever crossed my mind, that why isn't this person a believer? This person needs to believe. What's going to happen to them if they don't believe? What's going to happen to them if they die in this state? What's going to happen to them if they leave this world in this state? Right? Has that thought ever crossed our minds? And if it hasn't, then understand that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying that this is what deen is to wish well for other people. And that's also worldly aspects as well, in every aspect. But the most important aspect is what? Is our iman and our akhirah. Right? What do I want? I want the best for myself, right, in this world, but I also want the best in the akhirah. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. Right? That oh Allah, grant me the best in this world and grant me the best in the life hereafter. But when it comes to, if you have to choose between the two, the life hereafter is much better. It's a much better choice to make than this world. Right? Prioritize the life hereafter. Right? So we should live by this statement, that at all times I'm going to want what's best for myself, what's best for my family, and best for the people around me as well. I want to spread this khair and spread this good, spread this light that Allah has given me, right? But a person will only be enthusiastic about spreading this nur and this guidance that we have when we fully have yaqeen and conviction in what we have. That I truly believe that believing is the only way to success. There is no other success. When I am strong in that belief, then what will happen is I won't be able to go spend time with other people without giving a dose here and giving a dose there, right? Like, for example, when I firmly believe, right, that this stock is going to go up, then what do? I'm going to go around every person, and I really believe it. I want every one of my friends to benefit from it. I'm going to go tell my cousins and my families and a friend that I see, I don't know, you can do, they say DYDD, do your own research or do your own due diligence, right? But I'm telling you, the stock is going to go up, right? When it comes to like this, there's many things like this. When you truly believe in something, right? What is it like when you're crazy about something? Is every person that you see, you just want to go talk about it. You want to talk to them about it. You're gonna be like, you know what? Did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? It's because you're just like completely drowned yourself in it. This is how we need to be with Islam, right? With Iman, completely drown ourselves in it to the extent that I can't contain myself, right? I need to bring other people to this light, to this nur, and to this guidance, because this is the only way to success, right? So this is the second hadith, ad-deenun nasiha. The first hadith was innamal a'malu bin niyat. The second hadith is ad-deenun nasiha. Inshallah, we will also be printing out these, for those that would like these ahadith to be printed out. Inshallah, we'll be giving printouts of just the hadith, the Arabic hadith, and the translation. Inshallah, we'll give that from next week's halaqah, inshallah. We make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we said that the halaqah will be half an hour, so I want to try to keep it within 30 to 45 minutes at most. But inshallah, before we fully end off the halaqah, if there's any questions, inshallah, we'll take that. We'll take questions. Jazakumullahu khair. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Inshallah, yes.
So, good comment. So, nasiha in colloquial Arabic, we use it as advice, but it's actually like well wishing, like you said.
Yeah.
Maybe to stress that, because a lot of the Arabic speaking will think like, since what nasiha has sincerity, like it's
yeah, that's right. It's a commonly understood nasiha to be sincere, right? Or you mean advice? It means advice. Nasiha is advice, but the actual meaning is well wishing, good for other. But you can take, I think both meanings can be taken as well in it, right? Because I think in the usage of Arabic, the sincerity is also there. Advice is also there, but well-wishing is obviously the best definition to take. Yes, brother.
So I'm confused by the first hadith of like every action like sort of needs its niyyah to count. Do you want me to speak into it?
I was just going to say, do we have a second mic so that everyone else can hear the question?
Yeah, I was a little confused by the first hadith of like every action sort of needs its niyyah, because I'm thinking like, I guess two sort of counter examples. Like if I go do something haram, like I go drink, for example, like I don't have to have a niyyah that like, oh, I'm doing this because it's something haram, right? I'm just gonna get punished even if I'm doing it for fun. And also I assume like, if I go donate money to someone and I don't have the niyyah, like I would think I would still get the web for it. So like, yeah, I guess
So that's a very good question. So under this hadith, under the sharah and the commentary of this hadith, the scholars, they explain a point, right? And I can't remember where I read this, but I very, very recently read this explanation. They say that niyyah, when it comes to niyyah, is only necessary for good deeds. It's not necessary for evil deeds, right? So if you do an evil deed, a sin, with a good intention, that won't make that action good, just because you had a good intention. So this hadith is specific to good deeds, number one. It has nothing to do with evil deeds, with sins, disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Because just by doing a sin, like I'm drinking alcohol, but I have a good intention, that's not going to make that action good now, right? So this hadith is specific to actions that are mubah, that are permissible, that are okay. Now, the question is how do we extract benefit? Is if we are doing something, right? Like, for example, you said giving to the poor. Now, if I'm just giving to the poor, that action in itself, you'll get reward for it, right? Because the action in itself is a good action, right? What this hadith really is explaining is how to differentiate between habits and acts of worship, or how to change a normal mubah, permissible action and accrue reward from that. So now, for example, is that if I, first of all, when it comes to doing a good action, niyyah in a good action, right? Or sorry, doing a good action. The niyyah there, just generally, if it's to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll get reward. If you have an intention of showing off, then you will not get any reward. Rather, you'll get punished for it, right? So with a good intention, a good deed, that's already a good deed, Just mere intention of pleasure of Allah is enough. Now, the third type of action is a mubah, is a permissible action. There's no specific reward for it. There's no punishment for it, like going to the grocery store, right? Now, this hadith is saying that how to extract benefit from those types of actions. Now, those actions will be judged according to the intention that you made it with. And that's the example that the Prophet ﷺ is giving. That why did you do hijrah? Did you do hijrah for the pleasure of Allah, or did you do hijrah for another reason? If your hijrah was for the pleasure of Allah, then Allah will consider it as it was for the pleasure of Allah and reward you accordingly. But if your hijrah was not, then you will not be rewarded, right? Now, there's a statement where he says that the difference, niyyah, is the difference between habits and good deeds. A niyyah, intention, can change a habit into a good deed. For example, I'm eating food. That is a habit. It's permissible. There's no specific reward mentioned anywhere to eat food, right? But now if you make an intention that the energy that I'm going to get with this, I'm going to worship Allah. If you make an intention that my eating is going to be according to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, now that action that was a mere habit has now changed to an act of worship. And innamal a'malu binniyat, Allah will judge it according to the intention that you made. So even though the action might not be an action of worship outwardly, but the intention will change that action, transform it into an act of worship. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But I guess in the grocery store example, you're saying like, anyways, spending on my family is a good deed. So even if I didn't know that and I didn't make the niyyah, I'm still doing a good deed by just going to the grocery store. And
you could still get reward for it, but if you want to get like a lot of reward for it, and you want that action to have spirit in it, right? You want that action to have spirit in it. That's when you do it with this, and when you have like you're conscious of the fact that I'm going, but I'm getting rewarded for it. You're conscious of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward me for it. Then yes, you will get reward. If you do an action, Imam Fuad, without any intention, you won't get this. The action is good, so you should still get reward, right? You would get reward, but you won't get that spirit of the action. So is that correct? Yes, you have a question.
What is the difference between what is the difference between mubah and halal?
What is the difference between mubah and halal? There is no difference. Is there a difference, Imam Fuad? Mubah is permissible, halal is also permissible. Is there a difference, Imam Fuad? You want to shed some light into it?
So it depends on who you're asking, right? If you say, like in rulings, what is something that is mubah? It means things are, you're not encouraged to do it, and you're not prohibited from doing them. So these are the permissible things. Halal are for some things that you do where we know, like this food is not mubah, this food is halal, right? So when it comes to those type of things, there's that difference between something being halal and something being mubah. And the mubah are things that they're permissible for you to do. Halal are like you go deeper and you say, this type of food is halal. This type of drink is halal. This type of statement is halal. Right? But mubah is anything that you don't have a prohibition for, or anything you don't have a command to do. That's what mubah is, like the permissible things. Is that good enough, Shah?
It basically there isn't that. When it comes to the actual hukam of it, there's no difference, right? They're both permissible, right? But when it comes to what is halal, is that halal is something that could be, for example, maybe haram or halal, and then you go deep into it and you say it's halal, right? For example, you give the example of food, right? Certain foods could be halal or haram, right? So then you're going to go deep into it and say that this food is halal. But eating in general, you're not going to say that's halal. You're going to say that's mubah, that's permissible, right? Walking, that's mubah, that's permissible. You're not going to say that's halal. So mubah is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not encouraged us, nor has He discouraged us, or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? That we don't have any encouragement or discouragement from it. Jazakallah, Imam Fuad. Jazakallah. Yes. We got backup. We got backup today.
In the earlier section where you explained the method and the sanad of the hadith, you mentioned if it's narrated by X number of people within multiple generations. What is the definition of a generation?
Oh, in the definition of a generation is one person narrating to the other one. So not necessarily like father and son per se. It's just one person narrating from the other person, right? And then you look at, like, for example, students. A lot of it will be students as well, students and teachers. So teachers will classify as one generation, and then all of their students will classify as a second generation, even though they haven't actually like passed away. So we don't really look at generation the way we understand it in the normal sense, because like in I think when we use generation, then we're talking about like the generation of our parents, and now they are kind of have left the world. So it's not in that specific context. The context here is more, I would say, in relation to teachers and students, right? More in relation to teachers and students.
Although the first-hand witnesses will always be,
That's
I guess, the immediate people that had contact with them.
yes. So that would be Sahaba radiallahu anhum, right? But there are ahadith that we don't have it mentioned. It doesn't reach. I won't even go into the depths of that and into the details of it. Just leave it. But yeah, there's more intricacies to that. Let me just end off with that of the last statement that you said. But yes, you are correct, generally.
Just one quick question.
Question about the time and the niyyah. So many times we take our families for road trips, can extend to 2 days, 7 days. Now, time is of essence, right? So Allah said. And then what kind of niyyah we should have for this kind of extended period of time? Let's say we are going for a road trip and things like that, right?
Spending time with your family. Spending time with your family is an action, putting a smile on their face, making them happy. This is an action that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then in that road trip, you will be spending money. So spending that money is pleasure, is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then in that road trip, performing your salah, right? Making that trip now, ensuring that you follow the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're going on a road trip, you'll see beautiful scenery. You're looking at the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every single time you look at that beautiful, we're driving, right, in California on those road trips, how nice is it? You can just stare outside for hours and hours on end. Every time you see it, you remember, you say, Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perfect. He's free from faults. Allahu Akbar, right? He is the greatest. This is a command of Allah. Allah says that أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ. He says, do you not see all of these things? So Allah is telling us, encouraging us, look at all the things around us and recognize my greatness through my creation. Right? So these are some intentions that we can make to make that entire road trip an act of worship. Right? See, the point is that it's that consciousness that we want to create. You know, like they say, like you need to be truly rich, you need to have that, like a certain type of mentality. You need to always be on the grind, always grinding, like never ever just doing anything idly, right? For no reason, right? Okay, I'm going to do it, but what else can I do, right? From this time, right? You look at like very successful people, right? This is every single moment of their day is charted out, right? It's mapped out. They have a set schedule and they follow that schedule. Any type of distraction they remove from themselves, right? Because they know that this is not going to help me achieve the goal that I have of becoming wealthy, right? So that type of like consciousness and that type of attitude is what we want to create, right? That I want to be able to extract benefit, and what am I doing and how can I extract that? If you just have that mindset, then that is what you'll live life differently, right? You'll live life with so much more enthusiasm. Does that make sense? Jazakumullah.
So just ask a quick question on behalf of my wife.
Yes, of course.
So she was asking, like sometimes, like what if you have sort of the intention, like you're donating money or you're doing something good for your family, but like you don't necessarily, you're not like thinking about like helping that person, or you're not even thinking about the pleasure of Allah. Like all you care about is that you go to Jannah. Is that sort of
That
selfish
Jannah?
or bad?
No. There's nothing bad about that. There's nothing bad about that, because that's something that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself asked for. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-rida wal no, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah, right? Oh Allah, I ask you for Jannah. This is something that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself asked for, right? So just doing something with the intention of Jannah, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have more intentions, you'll get that much more reward from it. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you an example is that when we would study, right, in our institute, and our teacher, the first day of class, he would make us write down, our principal would make us write down what are the intentions that you have, and then he would make us write on a piece of paper and then tape it on our desk. So he's like, every day you come, look at that intention. So then he asked us, what are your intentions? And then like a lot of the guys would be like, we want to please Allah and we want to spread the deen that I'm learning back in our countries and this and that. And then when I said that, he asked me, he's like, only in your country, right? I was like, yeah, only in my. I was like, where else am I gonna go? He's like, no. He's a make intention for the whole world. He said, what? And then he explained, and he kind of got upset. He's like, what is Allah's reward not enough? Does he not have enough reward to give you if you make that intention? He's like, and then he explained, he was like, never think low of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said, sometimes shaitan will do this to us. He's like, yeah, you're making intention that I'm going to spread this to every single corner of the world, but I know for sure, like 99.99% I'm not going to do it. But he said, if you have that intention, he said, innamal a'malu binniyat. He said, Allah will reward you according to it, right? So that's what I'm saying, is have vast intentions, right? Have big intentions, right? They try to just have the biggest intention in the world, even if it's impossible. Understand, nothing is impossible for Allah, right? Nothing is impossible for Allah. Allah can make anything happen. And then when you start thinking like that, then He would say is that your connection with Allah will increase, and then your conviction in Allah will also increase, right? Because you're continuously reminding yourself that Allah can do this. Allah, if He wants, He can do anything, right? Like that hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam with that young child, where he says, if the whole world is going to come together collectively and try to harm you, you will not be harmed if Allah does not want you to be harmed. And if the whole world comes together and tries to save you, but Allah is intended to harm you, they will not be able to save you, you will be harmed, right? Like that type of yaqeen and conviction in the power of Allah, right? So these intentions, the bigger intention you have is a sign of how much we believe in Allah, right? If I come to you and I'm in need of money, but I only ask for $10, that kind of tells you, it's like an indication that I don't think you're that rich. I think you can only spare $10 right now. But if I come to you and I ask you, you know what, give me $2 million, then at the first instance, you're gonna be like, you really think I have that much money, right? Like, wow, right? But this is how we should think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't think that Allah cannot do something. Allah can do whatever He wants, right? So have those intentions that Allah, like this one person, he would go for Hajj, and then he would be like, when he's a person that mashallah goes for Hajj every year. When I went for Hajj the only time that I went for Hajj, I was sitting with him, and then he was like, when I go for Hajj, he said, I make dua that, oh Allah, give me a Lamborghini. And he's like, I don't go short on it, right? He's like, I go all out. And he's all like, every single dua that I make at Hajj, he's like, I come for Hajj with like one specific dua that I'm always going to repeat. And he said, every single time Allah's given it to me, right? Just because of that conviction. Right? He's like, I don't just ask for like a Honda Accord. If I'm going to ask Allah, Allah has all the wealth in the world, so I'm going to ask for that Lamborghini or that Ferrari, you know what I mean? MashaAllah. I think that's pretty much it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the ability to practice. So inshallah, in the next session, we'll be covering a hadith in which Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam describes the qualities of a true believer. Right? So there's certain hadith where Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that a true believer is like this, a true Muslim is like this. So inshallah, we'll cover those ahadith, and then we'll also have the printouts of today's hadith and the hadith that we'll be doing in the future sessions as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the ability to practice.